back, everyone. Today I'm diving deep into one of the 2025's most passed about horror releases, Weapons, directed by Zach Cregger. In this video, we're going to unravel the dense and haunting plot, look at the eerie and immersive atmospheres that Weapons nails so well, and spotlight Austin Abrams' standout performance as James, and then cap things off with a treasure trove of fascinating facts, including production secrets, box office triumphs, and behind the scenes surprises. So grab your popcorn and prepare to get creeped out. In the small town of Maybrook, Pennsylvania, is shattered one seemingly ordinary Wednesday at exactly 2:17 a.m. 17 third graders from Justin Gandy's class simultaneously leave their homes and vanish into the night. The synchronized disappearance is eerie, unexplained, and throws the entire community into chaos. Only one child from the class, Alex Lilly, remains behind, intensifying the town's suspicions and fear. The movie unfolds over several overlapping chapters, each focusing on different residents entangled in the mystery. These perspectives include Justin Gandy, the distressed teachers who quickly become the epicenter of suspicions and blame, Archer Graff, a grieving and determined father, Paul Morgan, a troubled police officer, Marcus Miller is the supporter school principal, James, a homeless addict, and of course, young Alex Lilly himself. After the children's disappearance, suspicions lands heavily on Justine. Having lost the trust of the community and placed on leave by Principal Marcus, Justine spirals, relapsing into alcoholism and seeking solace in her married ex-boyfriend Paul Morgan, who himself struggled with sobriety and integrity. Despite her troubled past, Justine is genuinely concerned for Alex, but so suddenly left. She follows him home and observes disturbing signs newspaper covering windows on his parents sitting motionless in the dark. Her gut tells her something is very wrong, and she urges Marcus to check in on the Lilly household. Meanwhile, Archer conducts his own investigation, obsessively retracing his son Matthew's final movements via security footage. He discovers the missing children's escape routes all converge, but frustratingly, the trails runs cold just shy of Alex's home. The tension rises as both Justine and Archer experience bizarre dreams involving the missing children and a disturbing woman with garish clone-like makeup. The story tones grow increasingly macabre as Paul, our patrol, arrests James for attempting burglary, but after a mishap involving a syringe, Paul releases James to save himself from being caught for the police brutality captured on his body cam. James, desperate and helpless, stumbles upon Alex's house to rob it, only to discover Alex's parents and the 17 missing children in a catatonic state in the basement. Realizing there's a 50 grand reward for information, he tries to anonymously report what he's found, but Paul, fearing his own exposure, chases James down, ties him up, and heads to the Lilly house with James in tow. There, things only get weirder and more dangerous. The film's fourth act shifts as the mysterious woman from the townspeople dreams reveals herself, Gladys, Alex's eccentric great aunt, and now the children's caretaker after the apparent illness of Alex's parents. Gladys' arrival heralds a surge of supernatural menace. She is, we learn, a witch who uses personal possessions and rituals to enchant and control over us her puppets, literally turning them into weapons at her disposal. Gladys performs a gruesome ritual using items stolen from the several other characters, bending Marco's will to kill his husband Terry, then sending him, bewitched and bloodied, on a violent spree to attack Justine. The ensuing scenes blend horror with twisted slapstick. Marco sprints across town, disrupting a basketball game and scattering terrified townsfolk, only to be killed by a passing car in a collision vividly blending horror and farce. As Justine and Archer finally combine forces, the grim truth comes out. Gladys has been exploiting Alex to bring home personal effects from his classmates, using them in a spell that summoned them to Alex's basement where she drains their life energy for her own rejuvenation. Alex's parents have also fallen under her supernatural control, rendered helpless and withdrawn. In a wild cathartic final, Alex seizes Gladys' magical tools and ingeniously undermines her spell. The spellbound children emerge from the basement and, in a scenes that are hilarious as they are unsettling, chase Gladys around the neighborhood before literally tearing her apart. The spell broken, the survivors, except for Archer, who alone returns to normal, remain traumatized and speechless, the children reuniting with their families in a state of uneasy recovery. The film concludes on a bittersweet note, with a child narrator revealing that Alex, orphaned by the devastation to his parents, moves away to live with another aunt. The town is left in a state of reflection and mourning, the children beginning the slow process of healing and finding their voices again. Now, let's talk about what makes Weapon so electrifying to watch. From the very opening sequence, children quietly leaving their homes, faces blank and arms outstretched, the film delivers a mood of creeping dread. Director Zach Cregger and cinematographer Larkin Sepul masterfully craft an atmosphere that is both claustrophobic and sprawling, using careful camera work, dim lighting, and unsettling framing to make the familiar feel strange. The shadowy interiors of a Lily home, where the figures sit in silent darkness, are especially chilling, underscored by a soundtrack that oscillates between hushed tension and percussive horror. Yet, just as the audience feels the weight of despair and paranoia, Gregor offsets it with an oddball comedic beats that keep the tension taut without overwhelming the senses. The movie fragmented chapter structure inspired by Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia means that we are always off balance. We enter and exit the lives of different townsfolk, each of whom brings their instability bias or tragic flaws to a story. The town itself becomes a supporting character, small, watchful, and on the edge as suspicions and fear fester behind closed doors. Weapons expertly captures the sense of collective dread and the fever pitch community hysteria and that can take root in an American suburb when tragedy strikes. But what really surprised me, and I suspect many viewers, is how laugh out loud funny Weapons can be. Despite its pitch black premise, Zach Cregger roots in sketch comedy, as a founder of A White as Kids You Know, are on full display. The film's comic relief isn't just incidental, it's woven deliberately into some of its darkest sequences, producing the kind of uneasy chuckles and nervous giggles that horror fans cherish. Case scenes like Justine's liquor store confrontation with Paul Wives, Marco's wild run through an amateur basketball game, or the climatic, almost slapstick chase scenes where the children pursue Gladys subvert audience expectations and lighten the mood even as the stakes remain deadly serious. A prime example is how adults consistently misread or fail to handle the supernatural crisis, making them the butt of Cregger's black comedy. Weapons boast a stellar ensemble: George Brolin, Julia Garner, Amy Madigan, and many others, but for me and for many critics, Austin Abrams' portrayal of James is truly something special. James, a homeless addict with a streak of questionable luck and questionable choices, could have been relegated to a mere plot device or disposable comic relief. Instead, Abrams delivers a performance that's both deeply funny and strangely tragic, finding surprisingly depth in a role that veered from slapstick pathos. James Dean brings some of the movie's most memorable laughs, whether he is robbing Alex's house,
Willow.
bargaining with the police for his rewards,
Could someone come meet me somewhere with the cash? I really don't like police stations. These kind of freak me out. I'm phobic.
or getting busted. In escalating confrontations, Abrams makes every moment land. His desperation for drugs, always one step behind danger, renders him helpless witness to horror around him, grounding the supernatural chaos in sad reality and absurd humor at the same time. What's remarkable is how Abrams walks with razor edge despite James' selfishness and cluelessness. There's a vulnerable humanity underneath. At one point, after being dragged back into crisis after crisis, Abrams delivers a defeated "oh man" as he's a cartoon character waking up from a bad dream. The result is comical, but it's tinged with compassion for society's outcasts and the unlucky. For me, James isn't just a comic relief, he is the embodiment of Cregger's tonal tightrope walk, making us laugh with his misfortune but also grieve for the countless real life lost to neglect, addiction, and institutional failure. When the chaos of the final erupts and James gets quite literally tossed around, it feels cathartic, shocking, and hilarious in equal measures. Now, let's talk about some interesting facts. After the enormous critical and financial success of Barbarian in 2022, Zach Cregger wrote Weapons inspired by his grief after the tragic death of his friends and Whitest Kids You Know co-founder Trevor Moore. This grief is channeled directly into the film's theme of loss, addiction, and the grotesque metamorphosis of family. Cregger has named Magnolia, Prisoners, A Visit from the Goon Squad, and even The Shining as major influences, both for the structure and tone. The visual motif of the children running, arms outstretched, is a deliberate allusion to the iconic Vietnam napalm girl photo, connecting personal, historical, and cinematic guilt. Principal photography took place in Atlanta and numerous Georgia suburbs, though the story is set in Pennsylvania. Many of the funniest moments, especially in James' chapters, were improvised by Austin Abrams. The bit with him admiring a Willow DVD during a robbery was not scripted. Amy Madigan was given two possible backstory for the villain Gladys. She could be a human using witchcraft to stave off death, or an inhuman entity trying to imitate humanity. Madigan never revealed which backstory she chose, giving the character extra ambiguity. Also, a fashion note about the movie is that Trish Somerville, Oscar-nominated costume designer behind The Hunger Games and Mank, designed Weapons' eccentric and subconscious costume palette. The movie opening sequence with a 2:17 a.m. mass exit is a nod both to The Shining's Room 217 and possibly to biblical references Matthew 2:17. Director Zach Cregger's wife, Sarah Paxton, appears as Bailey's mother, a touching meta cameo giving the film's preoccupation with grief and family. Cregger drew on his own childhood experiences with family addiction and lost for the script's darkest passages, lending personal emotional depth in supernatural themes. The original cast, including Pedro Pascal, Brian Tyree Henry, Renate Reinsve, and Tom Burke, but all had to drop out due to 2023's Hollywood labor strikes and scheduling conflicts. Only Austin Abrams and Diane Raphael remained from the initial lineup. Josh Brolin, Julia Garner, Alden Ehrenreich, Benedict Wong, and Amy Madigan were recast in the major roles post-strike, with Madigan being cast on the spot by Cregger over lunch. The original darker ending was rewritten after the test screenings. The silent original cut was replaced by a narrative epilogue, providing emotional closure and context. Weapon shot to number one at the US box office for 3 of its first 4 weekends, outperforming even the studio internal expectation. It became the year's second highest grossing horror film domestically, briefly losing its top spot of Netflix K-pop's Demon Hunter before it reclaimed it. Internationally, the UK, Mexico, and France were leading markets. The movie's global box office performance was especially notable for an original R-rated horror, beating several franchises' sequels and increasingly rare accomplishments in Hollywood. Weapons was nominated for the Astra Mid-Season Movie Award for the Most Anticipated Film, coming in second place. This is continued Oscar buzz, especially for Amy Madigan's performance as Gladys and Cregger's original screenplay. Critics and awards pundits, however, note the genre bias may hinder its path to the Best Picture despite its popularity and critical acclaim. So there you have it. Weapons is a mystery horror film that stands tall as one of the 2025's most talked about cinematic events, both for its unnerving atmosphere and its bold flashes of comedy. From its fractured yet immersive structures and its daring blend of horror and humor to the powerful performance by the actors. And this movie, it was gonna stick with you after long the credits roll. Whether you're watching this for the chills, the loss, the audacious filmmaking, or just to catch every detail in this labyrinthine plot, Weapons rewards the patient and curious viewer. Its box office success and critical acclaim prove that audiences are hungry for original daring films that challenge and entertain. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your favorite Weapons moment in the comment. Which chapter or character affected you the most? And would you want to see a prequel focused on Gladys, which is rumor that it might be in the works? Thanks for watching and see you next time when we dig into a new video, and stay safe, curious, and maybe double check those basement locks tonight.